Hello there, my friends, and welcome back to another game of Beyond All Reason. Sure hope you're excited for today's match. It's going to take place on Supreme Isthmus. Every once in a while, I do like to come back to this one and check out what's going on here. And this was one of the games that was submitted in the Beyond All Reason, in the Brayworks Discord channel, which I'll have a link to down below in the description section. Let's see what exactly these commanders get up to. Spawning on the front lines of the northern side, the blue team leader goes by the name of BioQ. Gonna be coming in at 26 true skill, a little silver tail poking out there as well. A little bit of experience to the blue commander right here. This is otherwise a very low level game though, so we're gonna take it nice and easy and relax a little bit. All the way on the other side, spawning in the sea lane, representing the red team is also an Armada commander, going to be going as the name Flat E, or going by the name Flat E anyways. A lot more experience here. This chevron count indicator thing is logarithmic as opposed to linear, at least as far as it was explained to me. Anyways, what that means is that the full silver chevrons have quite a bit more hours than just the little silver tail there. So anyways, I'm expecting a whole lot out of Flat E here. What do we see on Supreme Isthmus? What's the current meta? What's the current divide among players? Well, one of the things we've seen a whole lot, and I don't see it happening this game, but it's one thing that certainly the pros have been fond of. We saw it a little while back. I believe it was I want to say about 3 casts back or something like that. I showed a Supreme Isthmus game between some pros, and what they showed off was the 1 mex 1 bot lab, or the 1 mex grunt spam meta, which was pretty interesting. It essentially involves a lot of people handing over wind turbines to the person on the front, and then they spam out as many grunts as necessary to secure all this juicy metal, and then eventually get their metal extractors up and running after they've already handily claimed the entire middle of the map. It's an interesting strategy. Definitely takes a lot of team coordination here. Not the case on this one for either team here. Just going to be some good old standard early gameplay. Rovers and Rascals going up against each other. Going to be duking it out in the middle of the map. Love to see it. At least we're getting aggressive with those early game units. Yeah, there we go. We're going to send a couple of them across to try and do a little scouting. You pretty much always want to try and scout to see if there's an opportunity to get some early game damage done. The earlier you snipe a metal extractor, of course, the more metal you're going to be denying from the enemy here. Grunts clean up the middle of the map right there, and the Rovers will sneak along the sides. Yeah, it looks like they're going to go for all the way into the back line here. It could definitely do a lot of damage to the yellow commander, Scarjack, who is the naval player here, going to be already out in the water. It looks like Die Potato not lingering into the water quite yet. Thinking about it, maybe. Felt like the music was really low there. I think it's just a slower song. Yeah, they did add a whole bunch of new music to the Beyond All Reason playlist, so I'm super thrilled about it, obviously. I love some good tunes. Very nice. Yeah, Rover going to snipe a metal extractor here. Going to get this one. Nice. Huge pickoffs right here from the blue commander. Very, very nicely done. Brown commander and orange commander both suffering right now as these metal extractors continue to go down. This is some extremely valuable harassment right here. Yeah, the fact that we're going to snipe this much economy right here for the yellow commander just sucks. This is huge value for these Rovers. I mean, you got to imagine these Rovers are 31 metal, and they've already sniped 1 and another, and 2 more over here as well. Easily 200 metal, and it looks like this one at the very least is not quite done. There's another one over here. Oh, this is so annoying. Beautiful harassment from BioQ. You have to be careful though. If you, sorry if I'm sniffling a lot, by the way. I think I caught something, and I'm dealing with the repercussions of getting sick for the first time in like years, legitimate years. I think it's been like I haven't been sick since the very start of COVID. Anyway, am I not supposed to say that? Is that a YouTube no word? I can never remember anyway. I think it's cool now, right? I think we can look at the COVID crisis and talk about it, right? Is that cool? I don't know. I haven't discussed it much. Anyways. Yeah, I'm dealing with a little bit of a sore throat and the sniffle, so pardon me if I sniffle into the microphone here and there. Beautiful value in the backline for those Rovers. For that little metal to take out that many metal extractors and essentially completely shut off the metal production right here for Scarjack, or about have it. I guess these metal extractors out in the water are coming up right now. But yeah, that definitely hurts quite a lot. I love that we're taking the metal extractors out here, though. This is definitely something we see people neglect quite often, is not claiming these metal extractors. And if you have the opportunity to, you absolutely should. Is this new? I feel like I don't remember that metal extractor being there. Anyways. Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say, do we have anybody vying for control over these islands? Indeed we do. Flat E is gonna be going after one of these islands over here. Love to see it. That island would normally be under the control of the blue player because this is where their C player spawned right here, so you'd imagine they'd have control of it, but not gonna be the case, and it does mean that the red commander is actually gonna have a fabulous economy. Love that the build power is coming up here. We also have a constructor going to build a geothermal over here. Would love to see either the transport head back and pick up a construction tower, drop it off over here to help build that, or obviously we can just transport a commander or something else around. Anyways, I'm neglecting a massive run by right here. A whole bunch of blitzes have already pushed through. A bunch of them get caught in the tree line over here. We are going to snipe a res bot, which is always nice, denying about 100 energy per second, going back to the pink commander right there. Yeah, medium tank is out, but it's not really going to be ideal for dealing with these blitzes roaming across the map here. It's one of those solutions that technically works on paper, but doesn't really work in practicality, just because of the fact that the blitzes are so quick and maneuverable, and they can oftentimes juke and jive and dodge out of the way of the projectiles that the brutes actually fire. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metal extractors go down, maybe 6 metal extractors. I think these were rebuilt almost immediately by Medusa. BioQ definitely showing us some top tier gameplay right here, making very, very good use of those units that he pumps out, not just showboating them on the front line, not just posturing, but actually using them through the advantage points and getting the value out of those units. It's one of those important things to learn if you're going to start learning how to play Beyond All Reason, at least in a competitive sense. Learning how to actually trade your metal out effectively is it's one of those skills that you have to practice for sure. Peridot and Jungle Luke both going for backliner strategies here. You can see Peridot going for some T2 shenanigans, and Jungle Luke going for some airplay here. These guys are actually inverted on their positions. Usually you want the air player over here. Not sure why, actually. I imagine it's essentially equivalent. That probably has very little to do with anything. But typically, anyways, prototypically, we see, yeah, the air player spawn over here. It's not a problem. Peridot definitely suffering on the metal right now, by the way. Could definitely do with sacrificing that commander. A-Bunny holding the front lines right here, and Sizers blasting down any more of those blitzes to get sturdy on the front lines. This Grunt army is menacing here. A-Bunny does not have the forces to stop this currently. We do have a whole bunch of brown grunts that are built and up on the front, but they're not, well, they're not on the front. They're kind of near the front. They're threatening if they take 4 or 5 steps forward, but as of right now, they're not exactly in a killer position. Anti-air starts up immediately as soon as the T1 gunships are shown. It's about 2% per blast that those Banshees can do. Means that it's not terrible. You certainly need a lot of them to snipe a commander, but it's a viable option if you manage to find a commander out in the open. The thing is, there's a lot of options that could kill a commander for extremely cheap if it's out in the open. 20 or so ticks does the same job as those gunships, which is why oftentimes we don't see those used very often here. Medium tanks trying to push through over here, but there is a lot of thugs. Those aggravators firing away as well. Yeah, I think this will be nicely dealt with here. Well, okay, we're not pulling the reinforcements. If we're not going to deal with the tanks, then they will not be nicely dealt with here. The reinforcement advantage is real. Yeah, there we go. Eventually that'll be cleaned up. All right, nicely done. All said and done, we are starting to stabilize. We went for hovercraft here. Interesting. Okay. The Lavender player has gone for hovercraft over here, has also sent some hovercraft over here, realizing, hey, wait a second, this island is actually unclaimed. You definitely should send a constructor on over there, especially if you've gone hovercraft. There's effectively no reason not to. This is tricky, though, because these hovercraft have to effectively find value against naval units, and that is always a tricky thing to try and figure out. Agitator in a whole lot of trouble here. Love that we pulled the trigger to shut that down as quick as we needed to. Taking down the Agitator mid-build wastes a whole lot of metal right there, but it also denies, obviously, the strategic implications of having that long-range plasma cannon up. A-Bunny's commander is idle here. Could certainly be helping with some of the constructions on the front line or reclaiming or anything, really. We do have a critical lack of build power right here, yeah. Definitely a little bit of an experience thing. You can see the red indicating a uncertainty level for a lot of these players as well. Definitely a beginner's match, so there's a lot to learn here. One of those things is that it's just always better to build constructors when in doubt, because you're pretty much always going to be able to find some use for them, right? Whether it's just queuing up a whole bunch of wind turbines in the backline or reclaiming a bunch of trees all over the place, whatever the use you find for them is, it's almost always going to benefit you positively here. Is the problem with those hovercraft? They just get swarmed by the naval units, and when you're up at the when you have equivalent economies, right? The naval player and the hovercraft player both have equivalent economies right now. When you have equivalent economies like this, it means that you're effectively never going to trade out efficiently against those naval units. You need the assistance of either an air player with EMP bombers or shurikens or anything like that. Essentially, what I'm saying is you need a lot of support in order to make a hovercraft army efficient against a Navy army. It is fair. The Navy army does definitely cost a lot more metal, but they have way better statistics for the fact that they cost so much more metal, which makes them quite potent. BioQ denying this 4.3 metal extractor right here significantly cuts the economy of Medusa, who is dealing with a crippling energy shortage right here. Well, actually, it's a metal shortage. There are reclaim available here and there. Most of it over here on the right-hand side, though. A-Bunny being surprisingly passive, but I guess there's no units, yeah. We have medium tanks slowly coming out right now, but they're not on the front lines. LOT desperately holding the lines. we have these exploiters, which are nice to an extent, but they don't have a tremendous range. They have a decent health pool for a T1 era, but they just aren't going to be able to push back this much T1 out on the field here. These are the heavy bots for the T1 era, and yeah, these grunts are just going to get blasted apart. Oh no. Good strategy or good habits to get into are to remember to hand off units. If you're not going to micro them on the front line, remember to just hand them off to the frontliners. They might find some value where you otherwise won't. Frigates over here trying to blast away at these tanks. Actually a nice usage of those frigates. Obviously naval unit's going to be quite powerful against the land as well. It just doesn't happen that they end up getting a matchup every once in a while. Or very often, that is. Little naval factory was actually built over here. 2 frigates does beat a single destroyer, by the way. The damage output on frigates is insane. Does a single half-health frigate beat a single half-health destroyer, is the question. It looks like the answer is no. Just barely. The destroyer will escape over here. We still have some more production coming up right now, but at the very least that facility was scouted, so that's quite nice for Iraq Lobster, who is the green naval player on the northern side for the blue team there. That's a nice naval barricade over here, but you have to stop and wonder at what point is it worth it to go into more of these units. We're going to go up the tech ladder here, so at the very least we're going to try and put some of that T1 to good use, using it to guard the T2 transition, which is always nice. Bunch of medium tanks out here for the orange commander. If we could get a couple res bots on the front line for the red team, I think this is more than holdable. I think this is recoverable even. I just don't see it so far. Fiends are hitting the battlefield though. They were handed over here from the back line. Commander in a little bit of trouble here. Yeah, BioQ's commander actually extremely far forward. Right in the middle of all this army. Select that commander and look at the explosive radius. That commander goes down right there. It's going to be devastating. Taking out at least all that T1. Yeah, BioQ realizes it and pulls the commander back right there. Would have been a nice play to go ahead and try and snipe that commander, but unfortunately for the red team, not the case. Here we go. T2 units handed over, though, from the back line, and that's going to reinforce BioQ, meaning this army is extremely dangerous. It's actually a joint force army. Oh, yeah, nice jump. Oh, 14% left on that commander. Obviously, these commanders can't actually see the HP on the enemy commander there, so they're not entirely sure how much damage that commander has sustained, but at some point you got to wonder. That thing has got to be on its last legs right there. Playing it close. Playing it very close. Geothermal has come up already for the red commander, who has gone all the way into Navy here. Oftentimes what we see is a tech transition over here just to try and go up to a T2 economy and then eventually get into the Navy. But I actually quite like jumping into the Navy here because you effectively, with the captured island over here, actually have a really nice advantage of metal. And you're going to be able to express that across the battlefield here. As long as you don't lose too many of those ships, eventually you're going to overwhelm the enemy there. Love the coordination in the chat, or the teamwork in the chat anyways. Procedures asks, I think I need to go T2, right? Always a good idea to ask your fellow teammates, especially your more experienced teammates, if maybe you're unsure of exactly what you should do. The answer to that question is absolutely. With this many thugs out on the field, we have 3,500 metal worth of thugs on the field. You could start to, at some point, reclaim the thugs to pay for your T2 transition while you're actually building it. Pardon me. I'm not sure what sickness it is. It just feels like a flu, but it's been horrendous on my throat. Had a nice cup of tea before this, though, so hopefully, I don't sound too out of it. I know I sound nasally. I can hear that much through the headphones. We do have a lot of T2 coming up to the front lines here, and very, very little for the red team. Yeah, this is not looking good. The blue team need only to pull the trigger, is the problem here. And those units are in mass retreat. Are we gonna retreat them back and actually reclaim them? Nope. Why not? The question is, I mean, it's a bit of a higher level strategy, I guess, to kind of eat up your own units to fund the production of better tier units. It's a little bit of a weird concept, but it does work out extremely well when you have a lot of these T1 units and you're getting ready to go into the T2 stage. I guess it's not the end of the world, though, because, yeah, I mean, there's actually no T2 for the blue team to go up against here, so their T1 army is going to do just fine. These boats, avoid these for now. Definitely a valid strategy. When in doubt, avoid your enemy's big guns. Hound's going to do decently against those boats. Not great, but decently. It's a counter. Not a perfect one, but a counter. Medium tank numbers have medium tank count, that's what I was trying to say, has grown to substantial size here. We actually have some pounders mixed in here, which is really nice. That will absolutely shred this T1 army. Yeah, pull the trigger. Ah. Typically, as the vehicle player, you want to be as aggressive as possible, because if you can reduce the snowball of the bot player's army, you effectively wipe them out of the game as long as you're on top of the reclaim here. A-Bunny losing a tank here and there, losing a bunch of HP on a lot of these. It's eventually going to whittle down the orange commander until eventually there's just no way that their army is going to be able to compete with the size of the other one. We do have a massive ball of fiends right here. Are we ever going to use these units? Our brown commander, hailing from the UK, I guess, unwilling to use these units or send them to a teammate here. We have 15 fiends on the front line, 3,000 metal. That's the same amount of metal as these T1 units on the front line right here, but vastly, vastly superior in quality. Nice micro right here, by the way. Pulling back the injured destroyer. Love to see it by our Rack Lobster. 9 true skill, but definitely a little bit familiar with what you should be aware of on the high seas. Another destroyer goes down right there. Okay. Nice fight for Flat E. It's not perfect, but it's nice. Would love to see the res subs out here. I did see a couple of those at some point. Not sure exactly where they've gone off to. We do have one up north here. Either way, if they don't exist anymore, then we should definitely replace those. Those are definitely quite nice. Oh, a little bit of a pause right there. Not the end of the world. Do we have a late game planned out here? Kind of. We've gone into a T3 sort of a setup here. We've got an advanced fusion reactor coming up for the Maroon Commander. Slowly but surely building that up. We do have build power on the way, but it's not quite finished. We have energy converters coming up as well. All is well in the backline here. Not the quickest T3 I think we've ever seen, or the quickest APHIS rather that we've ever seen, but it will come up eventually here. Couple of units over here. We do see those lightning boats, by the way. Just got to get a quick peek at those lightning boats. They do look pretty epic. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the lightning boat. The Cortex flamethrower ship, I gotta be honest. I mean, maybe it's probably realistically just my Armada bias, but I definitely like the lightning boat a whole lot more. I like the idea of it causing a storm that ravages the boats, right? I don't know. The lore of the units is where you really sell me in a game. A-Bunny trying to re-expand right here, but these hounds are going to easily deny that LLT. Yeah, that commander's in a whole lot of trouble here, actually. Ooh, it's not going to take many volleys. And A-Bunny's commander goes down. Nice little snipe right there, keeping aware of exactly what's allowed. Or what's, not what's allowed, what's available on the front lines, what options are available out here, and then obliterating that commander with 2 volleys from all those hounds right there. As soon as the T2 really starts to come up in mass, you cannot keep the commanders around on the front line, especially if they're not going to be cloaked. They're just too squishy. They're a weird kind of balance. I think a lot of people get confused about the way the commanders function in the gameplay, just for the fact that they are extremely powerful, remarkably powerful, but also they become extremely unpowerful, but they maintain an absurd amount of power. I don't know. It's a really strange dynamic that the commander has, but it's an important one to try and figure out. Oh, nice snipe over there. Those mouths are reaching out at long range and actually sniping the hot pink commander from way far away. Really nicely done. Spybot is in the mix right here in case you're wondering how those hounds are being so accurate. It's because the Spybot was up on the front line. Really nicely done. We do have T2 up and running in the Navy scene for the red team. We have a partial Navy control over here too. It's been a harsh battle back and forth. My goodness, that's a lot of reclaim. Loads and loads of boats under the sea here. We definitely need to get some metal reclaim going out there, and it would absolutely turn the tides of this battle. I would say Flat E could easily win that battle, actually. We haven't got T2 up yet. Oh, no. Yeah, usually you want to get your sea lane player a T2 constructor just about as quickly as you can, especially if they're fighting a naval fight. Whoever gets those T2 up quicker here is going to be in, well, quite a better situation here. You can see Iraq Lobster already has the T2 up and running. And that's the only reason why they're able to actually counter the army right here of the red commander, who has a tremendous economy but just doesn't have T2 yet. Remember, T2 metal extractors are 4 times as productive. They produce 4 times as much metal, making them extremely useful if ever you need to find a way to increase your economy. They're by far the most efficient metal generation in the game. Second missile ship about to hit the front lines over here. We're barraging the lab over here, which I actually don't mind. I think it's a fair use of those. Usually we see these to snipe the geothermals over here, which is quite nice as well. We can also use them to barrage this base over here. All very useful things for those missile ships. But we have to keep in mind what the actual goal over here is, which is to break the sea lane and try and push through in this direction. Push through in this direction. If you can't find a way to do that, then oftentimes the best transition is to just go into a lab on land and start making your own units. Oh, interestingly, Looks like that's actually exactly what happened here. Scarjack ended up inheriting this lab right here. I believe it belonged to the brown player. They must have tapped out of the game here. Interesting. Tends to happen a lot, unfortunately. Commander goes down over here, by the way. The red commander. Not sure what on earth Flatty was doing over there. Res subs come in immediately to eat it up. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have if one person's gonna have res subs here and the other isn't, then I'm gonna vote for the one that yeah, has those res bots under the waves, eating up as much of that metal as they can. That being said, destroyers are slightly clumped up here for the green commander. We also have a whole bunch of skaters over here causing so much annoyance. It doesn't seem like they contribute a whole lot, but you gotta remember that they activate the flanking bonus, which means that those destroyers are gonna be doing almost double damage against whatever opponents they're targeting here. There's also a couple of submarines under the waves right now, but they're gonna be easily obliterated by those depth charges. And just like that, Flatty has won the naval battle. Does Flatty know that they've won the naval battle? That is the question. But they certainly have, at least as far as this point is concerned. Ducks are now under the water over here. Mammoth is slowly but surely walking its way up to the front lines here. Gonna snipe down that sharpshooter, which is always quite nice. Mammoths are tricky. You have to, if you're gonna go mammoths, you have to be very aware of your mammoths positioning. You have to build your composition around them effectively. Otherwise, you're just gonna waste a lot of metal in the front line. 2,200 metal per mammoth right here. At this point, we need some resurrection bots. We need some build power. We need anything right here to keep this mammoth alive. Yeah, 12% and counting. Down goes the mammoth. That is a brutal loss of metal right there. Obviously, the yellow player in a bit of a tricky situation right here because the naval units cost so much metal, and also we're going into T2 Cortex units, which are famously metal intensive as well. You have a little bit of a push right here. Torpedo bombers are pulled. Do we have any anti-air? Oh, we actually don't have any anti-air. Oh well, I guess the lightning ships do have a little anti-air cannon on them. Essentially comparable to a Jaguar. This is what I'm talking about, though. You really can't take an efficient fight against the naval forces, especially T1 against T2, but even T1 against T1 here. Luckily for the powder blue commander here, what is it? Indignus? Yeah, Indignus. Fortunately for the powder blue commander, the wreckages of the destroyers still remain at the bottom of the ocean. As soon as those get back up, it becomes a big problem once again. Rattlesnake showing away over here. I love it. Rattlesnake, a famously powerful defense. We're up to a T2 lab over here, which is also quite cool. We eventually got rid of the lab over here, but you know what I'd love to see is a whole bunch of tidal generators. Oftentimes, tucked away tidal generators over here can get away with a lot of energy production when your enemy doesn't notice it. The ducks have been noticed. Or have they been noticed? They might not have been noticed, actually. Yeah, you know what? I think these ducks have not been addressed here. Scarjack, yeah, has no idea. We're going for anti-air right here because of those torpedo bombers, but we really need our paladins. Paladins are the pinnacle of anti-submarine warfare. A little too late. Those ducks have now made it all the way across. They're gonna start firing their torpedoes. They should, anyway. We definitely need to target down the build power in the lab here. There's a definite priority. The submarine startup. Submarine's not a terrible option either, but you gotta remember these ducks can fire in any direction, whereas the torpedo, or the submarines rather, can only fire in one direction. It means you can be out-microed quite horrendously here if you're just going for pure submarine against the ducks. It's why the paladin is so much better, is because it can be effective, just as effectively microed against the ducks as the ducks can effectively micro back, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Both sides experience a harsh naval reality here. Dreadnought battleship firing away. We do have light anti-air here, but yeah, these torpedo bombers and the EMB bombers, just about every kind of bomber here, excellently done right there by Indignus. Waiting to spring the trap until it was already too late. That was a huge catch right there. Absolutely buying a lot more time for the allied commanders. Yeah, the green commander is certainly going to be keen to jump on top of all that juicy metal. Time is running out as we slowly upgrade to T2 over here, by the way. I do see those T2 mexes coming up. We've actually stopped upgrading, which is a little bit of a problem. We need to get every single T2 mex that we possibly can. If we get all the T2 mexes and the advanced geo, we will be in a killer position right here. This is a case of the blue team being a little too timid, though. They have EMP bombers, so this entire front line should be void. Null and void. No reason why the EMP bombers shouldn't be able to connect with these two Tremors, as well as all these heavy tanks right here, and obliterate everything. Yep, there they go. The Tremors blasting away at all this stuff on the front line here. And the bulls are looking quite weak as well. They've just been under siege here. If you're going to park your bulls out here, those very, very expensive bulls, the least you can do is set them on repeat and then toggle them on a shift-queued move command, so that at the very least they're moving back and forth. I won't promise that it'll solve all your problems, but maybe it'll alleviate some of them. Anti-air boats are here to deal with all this. This is going to sting either way just because those T2 bombers are quite tanky regardless. But at the very least, the anti-air is available, so these bombers are going to go down eventually. Well, you know, I say that. If you're not going to spread out any of the forces, then the bombers will not go down. EMP bombers are so powerful, you cannot underestimate them. And they have a massive AoE effect, so it's bad targeting for both teams here. The yellow commander should be spreading out the units in a big circle. The blue commander should be targeting down the anti-air ships before anything else. It's a mess. It's a mess, to say the very least. Heavy tanks in the middle of the map have been pulled. Oh no, the blue team is slowly losing it. Have we gone up to T3? We're still in T2 production. We're getting some more build power here. Double APHIS production, so we can certainly go into crude T3. If not very, very rapid T2 production. That's why those bulls were on the front line, I suspect, as the blue commander had quite a lot of metal and wanted to just spend as much of it as possible. A little bit overzealous there, as we do lose basically everything on the front to the geothermal plasma battery that was set up. And more EMP bombers coming up. Are we not building any anti-air? Surprised by the lack of anti-air here by the red commander. Feels like should have been high priority after watching the entire fleet get bombarded to death right before your very eyes. Maybe relying on the air player here, but that's not a solid bet. You never know what kind of quality of air player you're going to get here. Fighters do eventually engage against some other T1 fighters, so at the very least it's an efficient trade, which is always quite nice. No more fighters escorting any of this over here, so certainly the fighters could do some damage, but already the damage has been done. Paladin going to be firing its laser volleys as well as its triple-headed cannon. They stole that design straight off the Cerberus. This thing right here. The famous Cortex triple cannon design. Boy, talk about parking your units in a bad spot. Right underneath the Cerberus cannon. Easy to underestimate the Cerberus cannon. It doesn't come up in all games that you ever encounter. But when it does, this is the kind of devastating effect you can surely count yourself in for. There they go. T2 bots being absolutely obliterated. So this is great. Eventually this was cleaned up by torpedo bombers, but yeah, everything has gone down over here. We do have a single constructor right now for Scarjack, but Scarjack appears to be focusing primarily on land at this point. We have a bunch of ducks that were resurrected? No, that were actually produced right here. I guess we're Cortex as well, so no reason not to. The spam over here is hilarious. We're just going for more and more of these tanks. 2 or 3 Shiva pop up out of the water right there, and that can be essentially considered null and void. Used that twice this cast, haven't I? Anyways. I notice I do that sometimes. I'll latch onto a word or phrase, and then it becomes the phrase of the cast. Anywho. A couple of Shiva would absolutely ravage his right-hand side. Mammoths out on the front, certainly being annoying. Making it very difficult to, very expensive at the very least to push forward here, just because that Mammoth can reach out and hit from so far. The Mammoth actually has the same range as a Hound, so 650, versus this Hound right here, 650. But, of course, it can actually see out to that range, which makes it quite a bit more powerful. I mean, there's just so much air. There's nothing the T1 air player is going to be able to do here. We have no T2 fighters here. We've gone for a 4th fusion reactor. It's about time we stop ecoing and going into some air support. This is devastating. Absolutely devastating. Worth including a couple of blizzards here, in case you're wondering, just because they're going to be able to actually hit a lot of this stuff. Once the torpedo bombers get close to land, they tend to struggle quite a lot against a lot of this stuff. What is the blue team to do? Or what is the red team to do, pardon me. The EMB bombers have been absolutely horrifying right here. My question is, why aren't we EMP bombing all this? Oh no, we're going to pull them all back? Really? We're going to pull them all back? You've essentially kept all your units in this area for the last 2 minutes. You might as well EMP bomb everything on the front line so that your team can actually push forward here. There goes the red team leader, by the way. Forfeiting out of the game. Still has an impressive economy over here, but I guess no energy production. Realizing or just determining that it's not worth keeping in the fight. This, however, is where the game's difference is going to be made. At the very least, Stare Smooth is aware of how you should go for eco here. We do have a decent eco over on this side as well. Shield generator is an interesting choice. Double T3 production. That's a little bit optimistic here. Maybe if you were going into Marauders, I could see it. Double Razorback production. Definitely don't quite have the economy for that yet. Need about 4 more Aphises before you're ready for double Razorback production. Sure looks cool. Certainly looks cool in a thumbnail. Is it actually efficient though? I would say probably not. Let's catch over here. Marauder were produced and were sent across and were obliterated. Very, very good. Snotgun's airplay is effective. Very effective. Wiping out not 1, but 2 entire navies before any reaction can be taken here. That is devastating. Building up that entire naval army for so long, only for it to crumble right before your eyes. The problem is we don't actually have any regular bombers, so we can't actually harass the land, even though we have more than enough actual firepower to do so. There's also a lot of flak trucks that were built over here. I suppose the response was to build a whole bunch of flak all over the place since the air player doesn't have T2 fighters up in the air in mass. We're going for mass T1. Yeah, that's weird. Usually you want to go for mass T2. Air is not one of those places where you want to skip out and go for T1, because your opponent is going to have just about as many T1 fighters as, or T2 fighters as you have T1 regardless. It's a tricky situation. We have, in grand total, 1, 2, 3, 4, I count Razorbacks. Oh my goodness. And a lot of corpses of Razorbacks here. What on earth happened? How did this many Razorbacks go down and not achieve anything on the front line? Doesn't matter now, they're nothing but corpses. Oh, I guess those are sumos. I misread that battle. These are all purple sumos, so at the very least there's a whole lot of HP on the front line. That's difficult to deal with. We're going for the Ragnarok, okay. This is very ambitious, Paradigm. Going for Thor production and the Ragnarok at the same time. Typically you want about 12 Aphises before you go for a Ragnarok here. We're on 3. I'm not saying it can be done, it's just going to take a little while, about 12 minutes, more or less, give or take. Missile ships, by the way, barraging the base of Medusa on the front line here. Yeah, down goes the T2 lab, not even a ruin of its stance, just scrap and slag. Persecutor is built right here, but it can't see. Yeah, there's no radar. What a bummer. No radar right here for this hot pink cannon, so it's not going to be able to fire away at a lot of this. Missile ships need to be retargeted. Looks like they will. Nicely done. Anti-nuke included in here, by the way, which is always cool. I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up. Actually, I think we are leading towards a final conclusion here, as the blue team has realized. Wait a second. There's actually no pushback right now. The red team has just not built enough economy right here. Slowly but surely, the lines are shifting towards the blue team here. More and more of the Navy has been won. From both navies looking fairly under well control from the red team, to going completely into the blue team's control here as Snotgun has obliterated them. Razorbacks actually being used on the front lines here to do some damage. They will meet about a dozen of their own brethren. Well, not quite a dozen, about 5. Good stuff to help clean that up, and here come the EMP bombers. There we go. Finally, those EMP bombers do connect with something on the front lines over here. I was starting to wonder why we weren't using these. A couple of blizzards coming in as well. Love to see it. Yep, they're going to change targeting and go directly after that Aphis here. Definitely a prime target. Boom goes the base first Carjack right there, and the Yellow Commander loses almost the entirety of the economy. The advanced Geo getting EMP'd right here, effectively cutting off all energy production as well. This front line looking to be in shambles. The Thor goes down right there. Did launch EMP missiles, so that's quite nice. People always forget about those EMP missiles, so it's always happy. I'm always happy to see those connect with a big army like that. Missile ships barraging everything over on this side as well, which is devastating. The production centers for the Pink Commander go up in smoke here. The labs EMP'd over here. Always a bit of a cheeky maneuver to go for the EMP on your enemy's base, but if you can pull it off, there's no reason not to. Demons on the front line, and this is just a showcase of using your metal, using your units, actually being aggressive on the front line, and eventually it's going to net you a really nice result. Preka leaning towards the final result of this match right here, indicating that you can indeed type !resign in all chat to start a resign vote. If for whatever reason your vote is stuck and you can't actually hit the buttons, you can also type !Y or !N, yes or no. Just a helpful tip for everybody. We'll go ahead and speed this along. I have a feeling we all know the direction that the end of this match is headed in here. Sheldon, Commanders, Scorpion turrets, you name it, it's all gonna fall to ruin right here. Scarjack adopting a couple more aphises in the backline, just as they get blown to smithereens over here. The final commander, or one of the final commanders, where is, oh, I see, the final commander for Scarjack over here, holding up the game, but indeed the yellow player does tap out. And eventually the blue team manages to snatch victory in this game of Beyond All Reason. Just goes to show, a little bit of aggression, a little bit of forwardness on the front line, willingness to lose some of your units to gain some ground and shut down your enemy's economy. It's going to put you in a fabulous position. Sure hope you enjoyed today's game. I thought we were about to see a comeback there, but the blue team managed to hold on and managed to squeak out the victory there, which I was happy to see. And, you know, I'm always thrilled to watch some good games of Beyond All Reason, but even if we watch a lower level one, there's definitely some points to learn from. Let's leave it at that. Thanks a ton for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next match of Beyond All Reason. Peace out.